Well, this is huge news for GM owners and anyone potentially looking at a GM vehicle. I'm not going to say, I told you so, NHTSA did that for me. So this is breaking news. The feds investigate GM 6.2-liter V8s that keep failing despite fixes. I have been doing videos on this for a long time. I've been called anti-GM. I'm blowing it out of proportion. In just a moment, I'll show you why this probe is being opened. In short, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration has expanded the investigation on the L87 small block for continued complaints. This is what I keep showing, the continued complaints of owners despite their recalls. And I'm going to show you why. This is seriously dangerous. I've said in the past, they shouldn't be allowed to sell these trucks with the 6.2 liter. And I have a perfect example to show you why they are reopening this investigation. It's right here with the Suburban. Just happened. I think this might even be in Colorado, in my state. But this guy was towing, had a failure. He had already gone through the Pico test. And more evidence, this was 3 days ago. This is their second engine. So they had it replaced, their first one at 19,000. This is at 25,000 miles. Listen to this engine. NHTSA is saying, hey, these replacement engines are failing. That's a big problem. That's why they're reopening this investigation and broadening it and forcing GM. Most likely, this is going to come out to be an over million engine recall. So listen to this. I mean, that is just a brutal noise. And you know what I love about doing this? I feel like I at least get maybe a handful of comments in every video that says, hey, thanks for your video. I didn't buy one because of your videos. Thank God it's helping someone, because here's another gentleman, August 15th, 10,600 miles, stuck on the border of Montana and South Dakota. Been 6 weeks. New motor is still 2 weeks out plus the installation. They're on back order because a lot of them are failing. Here's another 2025. Not all of them. They're not all failing. Oh, these don't suck as bad as I say. 2025 High Country with the 6.2. Bought mid-November with 8 miles. Crank bearing spun at 16,000. Have a listen. They all sound the same. Like a total disaster. Now, what I am not saying, so it's very clear to everybody out there, I'm not saying General Motors, everything sucks from General Motors. That's not what I'm saying. I like the 2.7 liter Turbo Max. I'm not saying every 6.2 liter fails. I want that to be clear. But there is a drastic number, a very large number of these engines failing very early in life, and this is not normal. I want every YouTuber, everybody out there that reaches out to me to get this through their heads. This is not normal. It is unprecedented. It has not happened like this in the past. Show me a scenario in the last 20 years where we had this many engine failures and this many vehicles sold, that many people put in danger, and the company just sat back and kept selling the same thing and got away with it. So the original recall for this L87, it started out with just over 500,000 of these engines. Now they say the probe covers nearly 1 million trucks and SUVs with that engine. So we're talking the Silverados, the Escalades, the Yukons, everything from 2021 to 2026. This is what I have been saying all along. I'm trying to help people understand this problem so that they're not driving down the highway with a trailer and how dangerous this can be. And that's why they are reinvestigating. To go back to the original recall, there were 2 solutions to this recall, and people think that this is just going to solve their problems, and it doesn't. That's why NHTSA is reinvestigating this and increasing the number of vehicles in the investigation. It's because they don't trust that General Motors' solution is adequate. That's why. You can't read this any other way. So it says GM cited the root cause as a supplier, manufacturing, and quality issue. That was the original root cause. So they had these remedies. You had 2 different repairs. You either got an oil viscosity change, so they gave you 0W40 oil, which I'll show you in a minute, doesn't work, we know that, or you got a full engine replacement if it failed the Pico test. And this is straight from NHTSA. This isn't like I'm making up these numbers so you guys can get upset. You 6.2 liter owners or other YouTubers get upset with me. Go read the data. So to date, it says they've received 499 complaints alleging post-remedy engine failures. These are people that either got the 0W40 or we've seen this many, many times. They get a new engine and another new engine, and the second and third engine are failing. that tells the NHTSA, hey, these remedies aren't working. You're still building engines that have the same supplier. GM claimed it was a supplier manufacturing and quality issue. Well, then why do you have repeat engines, recalled engines, brand new engines going into these vehicles in the 2026s off the assembly line and replacement engines failing? Why do you have both of those? So that's why they're reinvestigating this. I'm not being overly dramatic. I'm just trying to make people understand this issue is not normal and it's neglect. I mean, if anything, this is why you see lawsuits against GM for this platform right now. If you're wondering, yes, I am fired up and I just had a lot of coffee. And look, exactly what I said is in writing from NHTSA right here. They've received complaints alleging engine failure in vehicles after the recall remedy has been completed, whether that remedy involved an oil viscosity change or complete engine replacement. So if you guys have 2025s or 2026s, this is actually good news. They are expanding the scope of the investigation to include engines produced after the production period cited in the recall. The recall, they ended the support, the extended warranty for these engines in the 2024. So if you had a 25 or a 26, you are going to be fighting for an engine replacement if it's out of warranty. So let's take this example. Just on August 21st, I could go through and show you 20 more in the last week, but I won't bore you with that. You know they're failing. He says, well, my 2022, now this is something that was included in the recall. My 2022 Suburban Z71 was running great and pulling a small trailer over the mountains. It died. It seized very quickly out of the blue with no warning. He had the switch to 0W40, so he had gone through the Pico test. They said, you're good to go. You passed the test. Here's 0W40. They gave him that sweet new oil cap, 0W40. Woo! Good to go. Good job, GM. 92,000 miles. So luckily, this is under a recall because if it wasn't, he'd be hosed. If there was no recall on this, he would just be toast. He'd have to pay for this engine on his own. Currently getting a 6.2 under GM special coverage. That's just the recall. Forgot to mention he had to pay $750 for a tow bill and a rental. So that's another thing a lot of folks don't think about. Imagine you're going up a mountain pass, you're in the middle of nowhere. Now you have to get a tow. You got to wait hours for the tow and you get to pay for it. And then you have to deal with trying to get that reimbursed. It's just such a hassle, not to mention dangerous. When you're towing in traffic or you're around semis or even not towing, think about how dangerous this is to have your engine pop, seize just with no warning whatsoever. It's not normal. And look, I've tried to express to people how this works. So I would say probably like 1 out of 100 people or maybe 1 out of 500 actually report failures to NHTSA. So this is saying the L87 failure problem, someone actually generated this infographic based on the data that GM provided in their recall. GM says that the defect rate is 3%, which is actually really high. Manufacturing, that's really bad. Most companies, if they had a 3% defect rate, it would be recalled, guaranteed. Like there's no company out there that wants a 3% defect rate because it costs them more money down the road. So originally 597,000 were in that first recall for the L87 that only went up to 2024. They identified 28,000 of potentially related complaints and incidents. That was back when the recall first came out. And then it's funny because it goes through here the rest that gets ignored, 13,000, and then what the numbers actually mean. And this is actually estimating that it's probably more like 4.7% or more of these engines are actually failing, maybe even higher, so 57% higher. And what they're saying is like L87 owners really deserve better. And that's why I do these videos. This isn't normal. I don't think any family with a Suburban or Yukon or a truck, anybody in any situation should buy these vehicles and honestly have to worry about that high of a failure rate. I really don't think that anyone should have to put up with this. And I hope that NHTSA forces another recall. That's the only way that this is, if it becomes painful enough in the pocketbook of GM because it affects their shareholders, then that's the only way this is going to change. The only way GM changes their behavior is, okay, that was too painful. We can't provide our shareholders enough value now. Now it's important enough to raise the quality a little bit more. It's the only way it changes. We're going through this pain here, and we'll see what they do. We'll see what the new 5.7 and the new 6.6 liter do from GM. We'll see if they have the same problem. I don't think they will. I can't imagine General Motors making this same mistake again. I think their life, so to speak, depends on it. GM depends on their half tons and their 3/4 tons to carry the day and their Suburbans. Their half ton market is their bread and butter. If they can't sell those as reliable vehicles, they are hosed. So this is extremely important for GM to get these new engines right. Time will tell if they do, but in the meantime, let's see what happens with this. I will update you guys if this turns into a full recall, which I think it will. I've been saying that for a long time. I think this is definitely going to turn into a full recall. It's going to be over 1 million engines, and it should. And they shouldn't be allowed to sell the 2026s that are on the lot right now. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I hope this helps you out. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, till next time.